most human beings claim they believe in God. But the most common state of the mass of humankind is that they're involved in one form or other of shirk. That is the reality. Actually, that reality has even crept amongst many Muslims today. That though they amongst the various nations represent a body that hold to the purest belief in Allah, in spite of that, shirk has also spread amongst them. So there are a variety of practices which are now common, custom, tradition amongst Muslims, which when you look at them in their essence, you will find elements of shirk there, elements of idolatry, giving some aspects of worship to other than Allah, giving the attributes of Allah to His creation, etc. So the way to understand the foundation of Islamic faith, which is in the belief in Allah itself, is to follow the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He has to be the source from which we derive our understanding. Allah revealed the message to him. He best understood the meaning of that message. His companions lived the message along with him. They best understood it. And he instructed them to be careful to follow his way. On one occasion he sat with them and he drew a line in the sand, and he drew on either side branches. And he said to them that this middle line, this is my path. And he quoted the verse from the 6th chapter, verse 153, وَأَنَّ هَذَا صِرَاطِي مُسْتَقِيمًا فَاتَّبِعُوهُ وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا السُّبُلَ فَتَفَرَّقَ بِكُمْ عَنْ سَبِيلِهِ. This is my path, leading straight, so follow it. And do not follow the other paths, or else you would be separated from His path, meaning from Allah's path. So this is the instruction of the Prophet ﷺ to his companions, to hold on firmly to that path. And in a number of other narrations, he mentioned, that he has left behind two things. If people hold on firmly to them, they'll never go astray: the Book of Allah and His Sunnah. All of which points to the importance of basing our understanding on the explanations of the Prophet himself sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Just as we need to understand what he had to say about zakah, what he had to say about fasting, the other principles of Islam, it's clear we can't just go to our heads and say, well, I think zakah is this, or I think that fasting should be this way. No, we have to follow the way which was prescribed. Similarly, the foundational belief has to be in accordance with the way that the Prophet ﷺ prescribed. And though this understanding of Tawheed is so important, so critical, it is the foundation of the faith. It is our declaration of faith. La ilaha illallah. When you read many books about Islam, you will find that this is relegated to a few paragraphs or a few sentences. And a lot of explanation is given now to fasting and prayer and all the other things. But Tawheed seems to be just something skipped over. And it is commonplace in many parts of the Muslim world today. But in fact, this is the area which we require to spend the most time on. Because if we have understood Tawheed, herein lies our salvation. If we have understood what our relationship to God is supposed to be, if we have understood who is Allah, then we are saved. Even if the other acts we are unable to do. That is the source of salvation for us. And in fact, the Prophet ﷺ in his own time, he spoke about one companion who went to paradise without praying a single prayer. And this is not to say that people should now be looking for that way. How can we get to paradise without making any prayers? This is just a particular unique circumstance. That he accepted Islam on the way to the Battle of Badr and ended up in the battle before ever getting a chance to pray, and was killed as a martyr. Prophet ﷺ gave witness that he would be in paradise. He never prayed a single prayer. He didn't fast, he didn't give zakah, he never made hajj. So that fundamental understanding of who is Allah and what is our relationship with Him, that is the source of salvation. Because if somebody does all of the others, but he does not understand this fundamental principle, then the others become meaningless. They have no benefit. That's why when people want to find out about Islam, we encourage them to come to this point. This is your starting point. You may find a non-Muslim wants to fast. They want to fast like Muslims fast. We don't necessarily say don't fast, but reality is that we try to get them to come to what is even more important. Don't necessarily discourage them. If they want to experience it, no harm, but we need to get them. We know that really their salvation lies in them understanding what is the basic message of Islam, Tawheed. That fasting is only a means of realizing the Tawheed. Everything else, whether it's fasting, whether it's prayer, whether it's giving zakah, pilgrimage, all of these other practices represent ways and means of realizing, actuating Tawheed in our lives. So, this is the basic understanding that we need to have concerning Aqidah, its place within our faith, where it came from, understanding that Prophet ﷺ didn't outline Aqidah classes. He didn't have Aqidah classes and outline it. No, he told, yes, Islam is based on 5 pillars. Iman, faith, is based on 6 pillars. And in delineating those 6 pillars, he clarified the basic principles which were necessary for one's Aqidah or one's faith to be correct. It was simple. Now it's much more complicated. We've got Aqidah 101, 102, 201, 202, But in his time it was a simple, 6 pillars, and people got that understanding and they put it into their lives. Inshallah, though life has become more complicated in general, so it's not surprising that the explanations, need to be explained in more details than they were in the earlier generations. But we should always keep in mind in the course of our study that the goal of our study is not the academic exercise, which is a means. It is ultimately the implementation of the principles. That this is supposed to help us to understand better the foundations of our faith, to be able to implement it in our lives and to convey it to others. We have to keep that in mind all the time, because sometimes when we get into academic programs, we get so caught up in writing our assignments and doing our exams and the other things that we lose track of what the main purpose was. And unfortunately, you may even find students in courses in Aqidah cheating in examinations. You said, well, what happened? What was the point, really? I mean, this happens in institutions around the world, where this is learned. But if you just stop and think about it for a minute, of course, it is something which defeats itself. And what is the point? You may as well not have studied this. If it doesn't have any impact, as the mother of Abu Sufyan, Sufyan al-Thawri, one of the early scholars, had told him that, when he set out to go and seek knowledge, he said, son, if you learn some sentences or paragraphs of knowledge, you've learned a little body of knowledge, and it doesn't affect your faith, then check your intentions. Check your intentions. If what we're learning doesn't have any impact on our faith, bring us closer to Allah, help us to be more firm in our faith, then it means we have the wrong intentions. And I've been told this actually by some students, for example, who I met, who studied in Medina. Prior to my time, I went to Malaysia and visited the Mufti of East Malaysia. And he told me quite flatly, when I came in to meet him, he said, I didn't go to Medina to study knowledge. I just went for the paper. The knowledge I had already before I went was sufficient for me. So he went for the paper. He didn't have any qualms about telling me that. So of course, this is sad, that we would be caught up in such the paper mill, It's unfortunate. And I hope, inshallah, that none of us, fall into that trap, that we are in fact here for useful knowledge, which will benefit us, and we seek refuge along with the Prophet ﷺ from knowledge which is of no benefit. As he used to say, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min ilmin la yanfa'. O Allah, I seek refuge in you from knowledge which is of no benefit.